Open your microwave right now and look up at the inside of the dome. You see it, the little constellation of dried splatter across the ceiling, the pale ring around the turntable, and underneath it all, that faint, stubborn smell, the ghost of every soup, every curry, every plate of leftovers you have ever reheated in there. You have wiped at it for years. You spray, you scrub, you wipe, and within a week it has all crept quietly back. But here is what caught my attention. In Japan, the inside of a microwave is not scrubbed at all. The secret is almost the opposite of effort. The mess is not wiped away. The steam is allowed to do the wiping instead, and it asks for about 3 minutes and a single lemon. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you will never reach for a scrubbing pad again. To understand why steam succeeds where scrubbing fails, we first have to understand why that splatter is so hard, because it was not always hard. When food splashes onto the wall of a microwave and the machine keeps running, something specific happens to that splash. The heat drives the water out of it, the splatter dries, and then, with every later use of the microwave, it bakes a little further, growing more concentrated and more brittle until it has become a hard crust cemented to the surface. So the splatter you are looking at is, quite literally, baked on dehydrated food. And the standard response to a hard crust is force. We attack it with an abrasive sponge, with a scouring pad, with pressure and friction, trying to grind the hardness away. It works eventually, but it is effort. It can scratch the interior, and it never quite reaches the corners and the edges of the door where a flat cloth simply cannot press. Worse still, scrubbing the surface does nothing for the smell because odor is not sitting on the wall waiting to be wiped. It has soaked into the residue and into the air. A microwave can be wiped until it gleams and still be open the next morning to the same tired scent. The Japanese approach begins from a quieter idea. There is a word, suji, which translates loosely as cleaning, but carries within it a particular instinct that the finest method is almost always the gentle one. In the world of suji, reaching for force is not a sign of effort well spent. It is closer to a sign that something was left too long, that a mess was allowed to harden into a fight it never needed to be. A monk sweeping a temple does not battle the floor. The motion is slow and unhurried, and the cleanliness arrives almost as a side effect of the calm. Hidden inside this is a principle that applies perfectly to a dried splatter of food. The hardness does not have to be defeated. It can simply be undone. Hardness, after all, is only a state, and states can be reversed. The crust on the dome of your microwave became hard because it lost its water, and anything that has lost its water can have its water returned to it. This is the heart of the method. Rather than fighting the dried food, the Japanese kitchen changes it back into something soft, and soft food does not need to be scrubbed. It only needs to be lifted. Here is how that reversal is done, and it is almost startlingly simple. A microwave-safe bowl is filled with water, roughly a cup or two, enough to produce a generous volume of steam. A single lemon is halved, its juice squeezed into the water, and the spent halves dropped in alongside it. The bowl goes into the microwave, and the machine is run at full power until the water reaches a rolling boil and the inside of the cavity clouds completely with hot steam, which takes, in most microwaves, around 3 to 5 minutes. And then comes the part that defines the whole method. Nothing. The door stays shut, the bowl is left where it is, and for a few quiet minutes, the steam is simply allowed to work. What is happening in those minutes is worth seeing clearly. Steam is water in its gas form, and a gas fills a space completely and evenly. It does not need to be aimed the way a cloth must be aimed. It touches the dome, the back wall, the corners, the ceiling, and the inside of the door all at once, every surface in the same instant. As that hot steam meets the cooler walls of the microwave, it condenses back into liquid water and settles as a fine film over everything, including every speck of that baked-on crust. The crust, being dehydrated food, does exactly what dehydrated things do when water returns to them. It absorbs the moisture, it softens, it swells very slightly, and the hardened bond gluing it to the wall quietly fails. Within a few minutes, the splatter is no longer a crust at all. It has been returned, more or less, to the soft state it was in the very moment it splashed. The lemon, meanwhile, has been doing a second job. Lemon juice carries citric acid, and as the water boils, traces of that acid and the lemon's fragrant oils rise with the steam and spread through the cavity. The acid cuts lightly through grease and food film, and, just as importantly, it neutralizes odor. The ghost of old leftovers is not wiped away. It is broken down and replaced by the clean, faint scent of citrus. When the few minutes have passed, the bowl is lifted out, and here a moment of genuine care matters because the water inside it is now extremely hot. The interior is then wiped once, gently with a soft cloth, and the softened food comes away with no pressure at all, from the dome, the corners, and the door alike, while the turntable lifts out to be rinsed. 3 minutes of heating, a few minutes of waiting, one easy wipe, and the work was never really yours. It belonged to the steam. The cost of this barely registers, but the comparison is still worth drawing. A bottle of microwave cleaning spray or a tub of disposable cleaning wipes costs somewhere between $4 and $8, and it is bought again and again as it runs out. A single lemon costs a few cents, and water is free. The method comes to almost nothing each time it is used, and there is a smaller saving folded in beneath that one because a microwave interior that is never scoured with abrasive pads keeps its smooth surface and finish intact for far longer, rather than slowly gathering the fine scratches that scrubbing leaves behind. Less money spent, and a machine that ages more gently. The deeper lesson here was never really about a microwave. It is about the difference between force and patience, and about an instinct most of us carry without ever noticing it. When something resists us, our first reflex is to push harder. A harder sponge, more pressure, more effort. But the dried food on that dome was not asking to be defeated. It was asking, in a sense, to be understood. It was hard for a reason, and once the reason was gently reversed, the hardness dissolved on its own. The instinct at the center of Suji is to pause before pushing harder, and to ask a quieter question first. What if the mess does not need to be fought at all? What if it only needs the right conditions to let go? The steam did the work because the method stopped trying to win and started trying to soften. The hardest cleaning in any home is almost always the cleaning you allowed to become a fight. So the next time the inside of your microwave begins to wear that tired, clouded look, remember that a bowl of water and half a lemon will quietly undo it for you while you stand by and do nothing at all. If this changed the way you think about cleaning, consider subscribing so the next Japanese method finds its way to you. And if you would like every method gathered together in one place, you will find it waiting in the description below. Until next time, keep the practice quiet and the house will keep itself.